So when you have your finished sketch, I would recommend taking a kneaded eraser and just erasing lightly over top of the whole drawing so that it's not as prominent, and then the white eraser that we'll use later will get rid of all of the pencil lines and you won't see them at all. When inking, you want to try and have as loose of a hand as possible, but you also want control. So you don't want to push too hard and you don't want to push too lightly. And I know for me, inking took a long time to get used to. In order to get over this, my best recommendation for you is just to start sketching in pen. I'll do another video on this topic because I think it's really important. But the more that you sketch in pen, the easier it gets and the less stressed you become when you have to ink your drawing. When you're lining, you want to have a variation in thickness. Generally, the outer outline of the character is going to be the darkest and the thickest, and the insides are going to be finer and lighter in their line. So you don't want the whole drawing in this one consistency of line, unless that's what you're going for. But generally, when I do my line art, I try to have a big variation in the different lines. When you're connecting a line, you want to just kind of add a little bit more thickness and add some almost roundness to it when you connect two intersecting lines. And this just gives the character a lot more life and makes it feel a lot more artistic. And try and do this for every single connection in your drawing, and it will make it feel a lot more professional. Often when I'm working with pigment liners, I'll do a first pass and a second pass, doing multiple strokes on the same line, because you don't just draw one line and it's done, you kind of refine it as you go. And so you're keeping a heavy pressure to a light pressure, a heavy pressure to a light pressure, because I know that when you erase the pencil from underneath the drawing, sometimes your ink will fade. And so that's why I recommend the LIGHTBOX method for certain drawings, because you don't have to do a second pass all the time. When lining hair, you kind of want to have that natural flow. So if you draw a pencil line that just doesn't seem right, don't be afraid to go off on your own course with the ink. Be brave, but don't be too brave. You can end up making a wrong turn and then having to redo the whole thing. For small details inside of your character, I recommend using a smaller pen. Things such as the eye, or muscle structure, or hair detailing, etc., etc. Another style technique is to use a thicker outline, and this is when we just go back around the entire outside of the drawing and just add a thicker outline to the edge, and it kind of gives it a different aesthetic, a different appeal for whatever you're trying to go for. I don't normally use this, but it's good in some cases. It makes the piece more interesting. If you make a mistake in the process of inking, a good method to clean up mistakes, then depending where they are, it's using a white gel pen. It's not foolproof, but it will work. Now what I do after I've finished everything is I make sure I wait at least 15 minutes before I erase, because it could smear the drawing. Some inking pens take a while to soak in, so just give it some time before you erase everything, just to make sure that doesn't happen. I take a white eraser because it gets the most pencil lead off, completely erase everything that's underneath so that you're just left with the line. Now depending on which pen you use, you may have fade, so you may have to go back over some areas if they've faded out too much after you're done. And often the line art can be corrected if you're using pencil crayons. The LIGHTBOX method is really, really useful because you don't need to salvage your sketch if you've wrecked your paper, you've made a mistake. I have the ARTOGRAPH LIGHTTRACER 2, and I use it all the time. It's one of my most used tools nowadays, and I'll link this into the description so that you guys can check it out. You can position the drawing better on your paper. If you drew it too close to the side or it wasn't centered, you can put the new piece of paper in whatever position you want. I recommend taping it down so that you don't lose your place. Only use Scotch tape and it doesn't destroy your paper. If you use that clear tape, it destroys it. Or I use a blue painter's tape. Masking tape will wreck your paper. So if you mess up, say you drew it too close to the bottom of the paper, oh no, what are you gonna do? What I do is I take a sticky note and you can stick that over top, add on the extra drawing, and then just trace over top of that. When you're going to ink, that there will be a bump, so be wary of the sticky note being there because it could shift your pen in the wrong direction. You can also change things about your sketch by using sticky note. So if you don't like the position of something or you want to add something extra, you can just add a sticky note over top of it. So line art, even though challenging, is worth practicing. You can create beautiful art that stands on its own, even without color.